Yeah, so welcome back. Uh, I hope you are taking good care of yourself and following all the guidelines plus the safety rules and regulations given by WHO and plus ICMR. Yeah, so coming back to our topic, where we actually left in our last class, we were talking about CMM, capability maturity model, and there we also talked about total quality management. If you go through my previous videos, you'll find we had a discussion on total quality management as well, where we were trying to focus on high quality softwares. Now today we are going to throw some light on zero defect software, and afterwards we'll talk about software matrices once again. We'll see some very important metrics in today's class. Though we have talked about these metrics previously as well, but once again let's throw some more light on these particular metrics. So this zero defect is basically a term which came from the machine industry, and where this particular zero defect was for management led program, where the idea was initially the idea was to eliminate the defects in the industrial production, and later on it was this particular concept zero defect was also introduced in software in the engineering as well, just like all the previous concepts. For example, your software engineering, testing, reliability engineering, all these things are basically from the core mechanical engineering or production engineering side, and later on was introduced in software field as well. Similarly, this particular zero defect software concept also came up from machine industry. This particular thing was given by Philip Crosby, a very well known quality expert, and later on this particular thing was incorporated into the absolutes of quality management as well, and a widely used concept in supply chain management as well. So if you talk about supply chain management, there also you'll find the things, and zero defect software is also introduced in Six Sigma concept as well. You might have heard about Six Sigma, but it's not there in the scope of this particular course. So if we look into this particular thing, zero defect from the machine industry part, so it was nothing but a quality control concept, where the idea was that there shouldn't be any defect post production. And in case of software engineering, we cannot come up with a zero defect software application in one go, right? So the attempt will be to eliminate the defects which are there in the applications, right? So before that, let's see what basically the zero defect is. So it's all about your total quality management, TQM, which we talked about in our last few videos. And here the idea is that the number of defect goes down to zero, right? As I said, it should not be like from the very first iteration that it's in exactly in a zero defect application, but definitely there will be some errors initially, and later on we'll bring these number of defects to zero. Now it means that asymptotically we are moving towards zero, right? Asymptotic, a very common term these days, you might have heard, right? And it's of course a mathematical concept as well. Now the idea is that it eliminates the defect in the production. Now the point is how to achieve a zero defect software. This is also, if you go through CIF, this particular title is also included in this particular unit. Now, so there are various ways in order to get a zero defect software. One is your test driven development, where the number of bugs is reduced by increasing the number of tests, right? So more number of tests, more number of chances are that we may uncover good number of bugs, and once we have uncovered, so definitely we'll make some attempts to remove those bugs. So that's how we go for a test driven development, where the continuous tests take place. Next one is your continuous integration. So here what we do is that we take the instant feedback, saves time and of course the cost, by helping identify the problems early, and then we can fix them in the production, right? So we are taking instant feedbacks in order to save time, and later on what we are trying to do is we are trying to identify the problems very early and try to fix them under the concept of continuous integration. There are several other ways to achieve zero defect software. One is your automated regression functional test suite, where regression is basically the post production, right? Once the product is ready and the software regresses. So the functional tests finds errors such as interface and your integration errors by emulating the user behavior. And needless to say, it's important to have continuous integration in place to succeed with automated functional tests. Another way is that we can go ahead with root cause analysis. So here what we do is that we go deeper into the root cause of the problem. Although it cannot only fix the problem at hand, but also prevents the future bug from this domain. So once we are able to identify the root cause of a particular problem, so of course not only eliminating that particular problem, it also helps us to take care of the future bugs from this particular section. So root cause analysis, this particular term is used in several domains, right? So here also, in case of your software engineering, this particular term is also introduced. RCA, in many of the literatures you will find this short form as RCA. Now next is your high development skill. So along with good defect tracking tools, high development skills are must have for dealing with the bugs. However, apart from some areas, they don't have reduced bugs rate in the production. Right, so if I have high development skills, so the chances of having some errors will drastically reduce, right? Because people say that, okay, if someone is expert, so chances of making some errors by him or her will be on a lower side. So it's all about experience which you have. Now next is your software reliability. Here we look into some of these metrics, right? So what it says is that when we talk about reliability, it means how reliable my application is, right? So what we have here is we have probability that the software will not cause a failure for a specified period of time. So it is like it will work fully functional during the daytime, and that will give me an idea about how reliable my application is. Not only for during the daytime, we may come across a measure where we will say that for entire month my application will be up and running. Now IEEE defines reliability as the ability of a system or component to perform its required functions under stated conditions for a specified period of time, right? So any particular application which is running continuously needs to go for maintenance and regression, and hence reliability will be calculated for a specified period of time, right? Just like your laptops which you have, so it comes up with a warranty of 1 year, maybe it comes with the extended warranty of 1 more year, right? But that claims that, okay, this particular laptop will work fine for a period of 1 or 2 years based on whatever the warranty period is, right? So it is talking about working of the application for a specified period of time. Now the question arises what basically the software metrics is, although I should not cover this particular thing, but I have added this just in order to give you a brief idea once again. So software metrics is nothing but the measure to determine the degree of each quality characteristics attained by the product, right? So we are talking about total quality management, we are talking about quality assessment, we are talking about software quality analysis. So I need to have these software matrices. In the previous several videos of ours, we have talked about software matrices multiple times. Now some of the benefits. Matrix can be problematic in the areas and bottlenecks in the software process. For example, your performance problem, etc. For performance, I don't think I need to throw some more light. We have already talked about software performance multiple times. They can support software quality in multiple ways. For example, your complexity, we have testing coverage, we have reliability, and all those X abilities. So they can help the software engineers assess the quality of their work. So that's how metric, it is giving me a measure, it is giving me some unit, and that can once again help me to assess the quality of my work as well. Now, achieving the software reliability is hard as the complexity of this software tends to be high, right? So if suppose the software is much more complex, the achieving a reliability factor also becomes very high. Recall our some of the discussions where we talked about one example where we said that okay, long back it was London's ambulance tragedy where the software wasn't reliable, it wasn't a quality one, and that's why it was brought down within few hours of its usage, right? Then the software reliability can be increased by applying metrics at different stages of your software development life cycle, right? So there are various stages of software development life cycle, and at various stages I can go ahead with applying these software matrices in order to assess that whatever I have done is correct or not. Now, software reliability and your hardware reliability. So in both the cases, whether it is software reliability or hardware reliability, we need to take care this particular concept of your software reliability. So what we have is, in case of software reliability, it's not a direct function of time, but in case of hardware reliability, it's a direct function of time, because software reliability is something which is a continuous process, right? And in case of hardware reliability, like once a hardware is built, it's built, so it is a direct function of time. Whereas in case of software reliability, the concept is that for a period of time, I'm not sure when we are going to achieve the reliability or not, whether we are going to achieve the reliability at all, right? Just the example of your London ambulance tragedy, right, where this London ambulance services went for using your CAD system, it was computer assisted dispatch system, right? So it was something which was very poorly designed, very poorly implemented, and its introduction led to the significant delays in assigning of the ambulances, right? That too, even there were chances that in order to assign a particular ambulance, there was a wait time of 11 hours. Now just imagine, in case of emergency, if someone needs an ambulance, then that person has to wait for 11 hours, which is not at all acceptable, right? So that's why this London ambulance service was brought down within it was somewhere in the year 1992. Once again, I would suggest you to go back and read multiple times. I've used this particular research paper. There's this particular research paper which is like very, very popular, cited by several thousands of literatures. Now, there is a basic question when we talk about this particular topic. So the question is, how to estimate the growth of software reliability as its errors are being removed, right? So that is, we are continuously removing the errors, and what is happening is that the reliability is getting increased, right? So the major issue is like testing, where the question arises how much to test and when to stop, right? Because right now we are trying to estimate the growth of software reliability, with the error being continuously removed. And how the errors will be removed? When we will be going ahead with testing and identifying those errors. So the question arises, how much to test and when to stop? Because once we have tested, we have stopped testing, then we can claim that okay, now this is how the reliability, software reliability growth took place. Next is your field use, that is the number of trained personals, the support staffs, and whether those staffs are capable of looking into removing the defects or not. That particular thing is also to be considered. Now, then we have like software reliability growth model. So, observe past failure history and give an estimate of the future failure behavior, for which we have like nearly 40 models proposed. Now, let's talk about reliability and availability, where it's a simple measure of reliability which can be given as MTBF, which is equals to MTTF plus MTTR. We have already talked about MTBF and MTTF. I hope you can recall. So MTBF stands for mean time between failures. MTTF is mean time to fail. MTTR is something which is new, which is mean time to repair. Right. So mean time between failures will be mean time to fail and mean time to repair. Additionally, your availability can be defined as the portability, that the system is still operating within the given requirements at a given point in time, and it can be given as availability equals to MTTF upon MTTF plus MTTR into 100%. That's the percentage. So this availability is more sensitive to MTTR, which is an indirect measure of the maintainability of software. Right. So mean time to repair, right? How much time it is consuming. So availability is somewhat more sensitive to this particular unit. Since each error in the program does not have the same failure rate, the total error count does not provide a good indication of the reliability of the system. So what we have is that every error which is there in the program will not have the same failure rate. Some of the errors might have a considerably smaller failure rate, right? So in that case, your total error count is not going to give you a very good indication of how reliable this system is. MTBF is, somewhat more useful than your defects per kilo LOC, since the user is concerned with failures, not the total error count. So these are some of the software reliability model. One is your error seeding model. You might have heard this particular term. Another one is your reliability growth model. Next one is your non-homogeneous Poisson process. Then we have like failure intensity rate. Then we have a Musa basic model. Then we have Musa Okamoto logarithmic model. So we'll talk about these software reliability model in our next video.